When the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, sent letters to rulers and kings throughout the world inviting them to Islam, one of these letters reached Heraclius, the Roman emperor at that time. When Heraclius received and read this letter, he called some of the Arabs to ask them about the Prophet Muhammad. One of these Arabs happened to be Abu-Sufyan, the leader of Makkah at that time, and he used to be one of the enemies of Islam, even though he was a relative to the Prophet Muhammad. And when these Arabs stood in front of Heraclius,
"Who's amongst you the closest relative to Muhammad, the man who claims to be a prophet?" "I am the closest relative to him." "I'm gonna ask him about that man who claims to be a prophet, and I want you to stand behind him. If he lies, I want you to contradict him."
I know they would not contradict me, but if I'm not afraid that my companions would label me as a liar, I wouldn't speak the truth about Muhammad.
"What is his family status amongst you?"
He belongs to a noble family amongst us.
"Has anybody amongst you ever claimed to be a prophet before him?"
No.
"Was anybody amongst his ancestors a king?"
No.
"Do the nobles or the poor people who follow him?"
It is the poor people who follow him.
"Are his followers increasing or decreasing?"
They are increasing.
"Does anybody amongst those who embrace his religion become displeased and renounce the religion afterwards?"
No.
"Have you ever accused him of telling lies before his claim to be a prophet?"
No.
"Does he betray?"
No. We are in truce with him, but we don't know what he will do in it. I couldn't find opportunity to say anything against Muhammad except this.
"Have you ever had a war with him?"
Yes.
"What was the outcome of the battles?"
Sometimes he was victorious, and sometimes we.
"What does he order you to do?"
He tells us to worship Allah alone, and not to worship anything along with him, and to renounce all that our ancestor had said. He orders us to pray, to speak the truth, to be chaste, and keep up the ties with our relatives.
Well, I asked you about his family, and you replied that he belonged to a noble family. In fact, all the prophets come from noble families amongst their respective peoples. I questioned you whether anybody else amongst you ever claimed such a thing. Your reply was in the negative. If the answer had been in the affirmative, I would have thought that this man was following the previous man's statement. Then I asked you whether any one of his ancestors a king. You said no. If you said yes, I would thought that this man was trying to take back his ancestral kingdom. I further asked you whether he was ever accused of telling lies before he said what he said. You said no. So I wondered how a person who never lies to people lies about God. Then I asked you whether the noble people or the poor who follow him. You replied that it was the poor people who follow him. So it is with all the prophets. They have been always followed by this type of people. Then I asked you whether his followers increasing or decreasing. You replied that they were increasing. In fact, this is the way of true faith till it is complete in all respect. I further asked you whether there was anybody who after embracing his religion became displeased and discarded his religion. You said no. In fact, this is the sign of true faith when its delight enters the heart and mixes with it completely. I asked you whether he had ever betrayed. You said no, and so the prophets never betrayed. I asked you what he ordered you to do. You told me he ordered you to worship Allah alone and not to worship anything along with him. He forbade you to worship idols. He told you to pray, to speak the truth, and to be chaste. If what you have said is true, he would very soon occupy this place underneath my feet. And I knew from scriptures that he was going to appear, but I didn't know that he would be from you.
Heraclius was about to become a Muslim. He knew the truth, but he didn't follow it out of fear of losing his high position as an emperor. But his position won't benefit him in front of God. So, if you knew the truth, follow it, no matter where it is.
A teacher, the teacher of teachers. He changed the world for the better and made us better creatures. Oh Allah, we've shamed blamed ourselves, we've strayed from our